please like and subscribe and click the bell icon to get new video updates.
Welcome to King Cole 1965 for all things Nat King Cole and more. In today's video, I'll be discussing the working relationship between Nat King Cole and Ralph Carmichael, along with the 1962 Capitol Records release, Nat King Cole Sings and George Shearing Plays. And before we get started, please take a moment to like and subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon so you can be updated for all my future videos, and that will help the YouTube algorithm and to make my channel grow. This is the first time meeting of two great musicians, Nat King Cole and George Shearing. George Shearing's quintet was a musical blend along with George Shearing's notable chord block chord progression, along with the string section arrangement done by Ralph Carmichael. And they set out to record this classic album. Tell you a little bit about George Shearing. George Shearing was born August 13, 1919 in London, England. He was blind at birth. He was the youngest of 9 children, and both his parents were working class people in London. George Shearing started playing piano at the age of 3, and he went to the Linden Lodge School for the Blind, and he stayed there for about 4 years. I think in about 1949, George left London, England, and immigrated to the United States, which I think in 1955 or 59, he became a U.S. citizen. I think George's first couple of albums was done on the MGM label, and then later on he moved on to Capitol Records. And George had a very unique style, what they call a block chord piano playing style, which I can't really get into the detail because I play guitar and never played piano. And George has a series of albums at Capitol, I think from 1950 up until 1969. Now, he had the pleasure of getting great arrangements from Billy May, and his known producer for all his Capitol records were Dave Cavanaugh, and then later on it'd be Tom Morgan. George Shearing has always stated in past interviews that him recording with Nat was his single favorite project, basically because he loved Nat so much, plus he also loved the arrangements Ralph did too. Ralph explains in an interview, "We were in the studio, it was the first date, and here again, they gave me a few extra strings because I asked for them. And so George was sitting at the piano, and George knows the layout of the studio. He knows where all the mics are, and we're not to bump into things and music stands and all that. So we do this run through and the strings, and we have a lot of stuff going on. And Nat wasn't present at the time. Nat was not in the studio, so we had been there the first 20 minutes or so. And so we finished this run through, and George is sitting a little bit behind me, to my right, probably a distance of 12 feet, maybe 15. And we finish, and it's quiet in the studio. And I'm looking over at him. He pushes his piano bench back, and he gets up, and he shuffles over to me, and he puts his hand out, and he finds my shoulder. He puts his face right up to my ear, and he says, "You're a son of a bitch." And he turns around and shuffles back. That's the greatest compliment I've ever had in my life. So basically after that, I guess they started having these production meetings. So Ralph explains how these production meetings took place. He said it was on the 4th floor of the Capitol Records Tower in the conference room. I had my score paper and I was taking notes. No, it was terrible. Because, you know, we get everything to set up, and then Nat would say, "Wait a minute, I think George should take the first instrumental break when we finish the first chorus." So I'll ease everything and put new directions in it. And then George would say, "Let's see, what key are we gonna do? No, I think we're gonna do it in the key of D flat." And then Nat would say, "No, I think E flat would be a better key for me." So he would have to erase everything and start all over again. Well, we spent about 2 hours up there, and we finished. Didn't think we had the routine more than 2 or 3 tunes. It was just a waste of time. So we decided the next meeting, we would do it down in the studio. And George would sit at the piano and have the mic right next to him. And then Nat would have the mic, and he'd be standing up over the piano. And that way we could record all these changes. And I would have to do what would be to go through about 30 or 40 minutes of talk. Fast forward to the last 2-3 minutes, because the direct would be right there at the end, you see. So we worked it out real good, and we got all these changes and the keys and the routines, you know, Ralph stated. Then Ralph talks about the first day of recording session. You know, he said they would be at the studio and it would be on the first date, and then they would, you know, I guess George would tell them, you know, how many strings that he wanted in the charts. So Ralph had already stated in that same day Nat wouldn't show up till like 20 minutes later. And the reason why Nat would do that is because Nat would give the musicians time enough to, you know, them and Lee and Ralph would do a rundown, or they would rehearse anything. So Nat, when he walk in, he'd be ready to record. And towards the second day, it got to the point where Nat was showing up 30 minutes late, and then George got wind of it, and George would come in 20 minutes and 30 minutes late. It was like kind of like a little, you know, it's kind of like a rivalry between each other. When this album was released in April of 1962, the album peaked at number 27 or 25 in the Hot Billboard's Top 100 album charts. And one of my favorite songs on the album is Beautiful Friendship. You know, it has that George Shearing sound, the block chord piano playing. And, you know, you have Pick Yourself Up, and you have Fly Me to the Moon, Guess I'll Go Back Home This Summer. If you get a chance, listen to this album. It is really, really good. I have my vinyl pressing. I have the mono and the stereo pressing, along with the 1990 or 92 Larry Walsh, and I have the 2001 reissue of this album. If you get a chance, really listen to it. I think you'll enjoy it. Okay, that would do it on the working relationship between Nat King Cole and Ralph Carmichael. And as always, please like and subscribe to the channel. Click that bell icon so you'll be updated for all my future videos. The next video I'll be working on is Nat King Cole Espanol and more. And as always, take care. Bye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being such a lovely audience. Like I always say, make the best of everything, because once you're dead, brother, life ain't worth living. This is our lovely way to spend an evening. Hope I may come again and spend it with you. Thank you. Good night. God bless you.